Rockets over the Kings 122-97. Where do the Kings go from here? To help us sort that out, outstanding Kings TV analyst, 15-year NBA veteran, the one and only Matt Barnes with us. Matt, thanks as always for your time. Where do you think Mike Brown's efforts to get the Kings back on track, where do those efforts have to start, Matt?
I just think with energy and force and, wanting to go out there and win. These last two games, the guys played hard, but it just, they were beat in every aspect of the game. Hustle plays, the stuff that doesn't necessarily show up on the stat sheet. And, this year, I said this earlier in the season, the Kings aren't going to be able to sneak up on anyone. And if anything, teams really want to see, are they as good as they were last year? Was last year lucky? Was it a fluke? So teams are really every night are going to test Sacramento and to see what they're about.
Matt, thanks for jumping on. I know you were on the post-game show yesterday, and we're 6 games into the season. Obviously, these last 2 games, they look unrecognizable. Where should the level of panic be right now? Because I'm getting fired up in this studio. Whitey's getting fired up. The fan base is fired up. Twitter's fired up. Where should we be at right now?
I think everyone should be calm, to be honest with you. Obviously this is not the start after, a historic season that you wanted. But if you look back to last year, I think they started 0-4 and still made, something out of themselves. And also to the point, I don't necessarily know what's going on with the team because I'm not here day in, day out. But I also say rarely will you have a time in a season where you have both your best shooters not shooting the ball well and you're missing your best player. Like, it's rarity to have, it's common to have one guy going through a shooting slump or maybe missing, a guy or two, but to have your 2 best shooters and missing your all-NBA, all-star point guard at the same time, that's a recipe for disaster for any team. So again, 2-4, obviously you would like to see a different record, but it's still very early. There's a whole bunch of expectations and more pressure on this team. Mike is really trying to, preach that force on playing on the defensive end. And I think this team is still trying to find out what that means. And I think the league and the referees are trying to too, because if you guys both recall last night, I think we had 3 or 4 guys with 3 fouls in the first half.
First half, yeah.
So I think there's just a lot of adjustment going on and a lot of overthinking going on by Keon and Herter. But again, we're 6 games into the season. There's a lot more games. And I wouldn't press the panic button until mid-December, Christmas. If this is a 500 team up to that point, or they're up and down, that's when you kind of start worrying. But to me, it's really too early to start panicking.
Matt Barnes with us. Matt, I thought the Kings came out in the second half. The game was already lost, but it looked like they came out running some dribble drive stuff to get some motion going. Are teams defending Sabonis differently this year based on the way Golden State defended him in the playoffs last year?
I think you hit it on the head exactly. They're starting to play more side coverage and forcing him. He's a selfless superstar, a pass-first superstar by nature. And when Draymond and Looney sat in the paint and clogged all of our driving lanes up and forced him to shoot, and it's not that he can't shoot, but to me the hardest shot in the NBA is a wide-open shot. I'd much rather have 10 out of 10 times someone's hand in my face, or at least someone close to me. But those wide-open shots where they're almost disrespecting you and daring you to shoot are tough. So he's going to have to, kind of mentally battle through that, whether that's running. The best thing to do to me when they're playing sag coverage is go hard into a dribble handoff to a Herter or a Keon, but at the same time, neither of those guys are hitting. So, I just think this is just one of those blips in the radar that, no one's really playing well. These guys aren't hitting on, any type of cylinder, but again, it's not something to panic about. But the one thing I will say is I think that Golden State kind of, I wouldn't say exposed because he's still a very solid player, but they showed something that he needs to work on and something that he needs to figure out because no one's going to be able to help him with that.
Yeah, he only took 4 shots last night talking about Domantas Sabonis. Matt, when I look at this makeup of this Kings team, a lot of nice guys. Mike Brown talks about physicality. One thing the Rockets were able to do is get really physical on the perimeter with the guards, Dylan Brooks, Fred VanVleet. Do the Kings have the personnel to combat that? And how do you combat that if you're Sacramento? Or do they need to go out there and make a trade? What do you think?
Or will you come back? Will you come out of retirement?
Right.
Yeah, we talked about what I would have did if Dylan Brooks blew a kiss to the bench. I said I would have clotheslined his ass. But I think this is a spot where Trey Lyles I really like, and he's not a verbal guy, and he's not out barking at people, but he plays physical. You know, Kyle, we recall him mixing it up in the game last year where he almost got in a fight.
Yep.
I really like the edge that Trey Lyles brings in his versatility. As far as meanness and toughness, I mean, that's something you're kind of born with or not. I think you can kind of teach it to an extent, but you don't necessarily have to be. You just have to play hard. You know, no one said you have to go out there and be tough, you know, although it's wanted. But, you know, if you go out there and play hard, that covers up for a lot of different mistakes. So, you know, one thing I will say, obviously missing De'Aaron, he is not just one of the best scoring guards, but we all know how big of leaps he's taken on the defensive end. And he's the head of the snake on the defense, getting in passing lanes, on-ball defense, you know, turning defense into offense, missing that. And then, too, I think Keegan Murray has made a big jump this year on challenging himself. You know, Mike Brown challenged him last year, but now he's actually out here guarding Steph and guarding these guys, and that is going to wear on his legs, too. For him to become a two-way player, that I think he's going to have to realize, man, I got to be in better shape. You know what I mean? Because playing one way is cool, but one of those, you know, the rarities where you're a special talent on both sides of the ball, that takes a lot more conditioning because, again, you're chasing Steph Curry for 35 minutes and then you're expected to knock down, you're consistently expected to knock down three-pointers at a 40% clip. That's not easy. Very few guys can do that. So, again, I think they have the pieces, and I just think there's definitely a target on their back. You know, Memphis was a sweetheart a few years ago, and they've had a target on their back since, and obviously them missing Ja Morant, we're seeing how important he is to that team, and they're struggling. Sacramento definitely has a target on their back. And one thing I noticed about Sacramento, although they haven't won, we've only won 2 games this year, they get up for the Golden States. They get up for the Lakers. Mm-hmm. But you can't disrespect these guys at the bottom of the Western Conference, particularly Houston, because, you know, Ime's bought a new system over there. He's got some new dogs over there, and they're ready to prove their point. So I think night in, night out, it has to be a consistent attention to detail. You can't take anyone lightly, and you got to know every single night you're going to be tested because how much love you got last year.
Matt, one of the most impressive things about your career is that you had to prove that you belonged in the NBA. You did that, and you lasted for 15 years, and you became an indispensable part of some good teams. Keon Ellis played well last night, and I know it was late in the game and it was against reserves. He can defend. We know that. He's very quick laterally. The way things are going, do you think maybe he deserves another look in the next game? Or, I mean, if you're Mike Brown, you say, hey, I'm going to see if this guy – I'm not going to just send him back to the end of the bench. I'm going to see if there's – maybe there's something there as long as this team continues to play this poorly.
Definitely. There's always a silver lining in situations like this. And Keon, I spoke about this in the postgame, that he came in and I think he led the team in scoring with 15 points and only played like 13 minutes. You know what I mean? And the fact that he is someone who does play defense and can shoot the ball, he definitely, I guarantee he earned some more respect from Mike. And I'm not sure how much he's going to play, but I definitely think he will be somewhat in the rotation more than he's been previously, but there's always opportunities like that. You know, no game is just a wasted game. I didn't want to say it on air, but I knew these guys weren't going to come back in the second half. I just wanted to see them trending in the right direction. And I think when Mike brought the bench in, predominantly in the fourth quarter, Keon Ellis was someone who stuck out with energy and decision-making and hustle and shot-making. You know, so that definitely, you know, all the coaches watched film last night and today, and he's definitely on their mind. And again, I don't know if that's going to mean he's automatically playing 15 to 18 minutes, but I definitely think he's going to get more opportunities, and he just has to execute. I don't think they're expecting him to score 15 every single night, but I think they expect him to make good decisions, knock down solid shots, and to do all the small things. Anytime, because that's where I came. I came from it was the D League back when I was there.
Yeah.
Anytime you come up from the D League, they're not looking for you to be the number 2 or number 3 scorer. They're looking for you to play hard and do all the right things to help the team win that doesn't necessarily show up on the stat sheet, or it won't get your name on SportsCenter. But you're building your minutes, and you're building your, kind of building your repertoire and an understanding with the coaching staff. So I do think he may have earned himself a few more minutes, in the upcoming games, and we'll see how that goes.
Matt, we just had a passionate discussion about this very point with the Keon Ellis situation. And, it sounds good in theory, but it's sort of like the All-Star team. Well, this guy should have been on the All-Star team. Well, tell me whose minutes he's taking. Tell me who's not getting it done.
Yeah, no, it's and that's the thing about the league, Kyle. I mean, it's, you always want to be a great teammate and you always want to cheer for everyone, but we know better than any coach in the league, Mike Brown is a next up type guy. he doesn't play guys the whole season, and then you see Alex Len get quality minutes in the playoffs. So you just always have to be ready and to say, like, hey, he's going to take so-and-so spot, or he can take these minutes. Good thing we don't have to worry about that. I think that's why they pay Mike a lot of money to make those decisions. But, it is something. You definitely have to, guys that are struggling early on, and Mike's trying to find energy and some kind of rhythm and some kind of physicality. He can definitely steal a few minutes from Keegan, steal a few minutes from Herder, and next thing you know, that's 12 minutes, and he knocks down a couple threes and makes a few defensive plays, and that starts to go up. So I don't know if whose minutes he's going to be taking. I just threw out an example out there, but as long as he continues to be productive in his minutes, I think Mike's going to give him a look until they kind of figure out what it is and what's going on.
Great stuff, Matt. Thank you so much for being the voice of reason on this past Tuesday. We appreciate it. Hope to talk to you again real soon. Thanks, Matt.
All right, guys. Have a good one.